Morning.
Good morning, Gerard. I'm doing great. I wish I was home with you and your listeners, but we are still in D.C., and we'll be here throughout the weekend trying to elect a new Speaker of the House.
Well, I know you and I chatted a bit about this. I was, somewhat shocked yesterday afternoon. I was traveling, headed up to Oxford, and got the notification that Steve Scalise had withdrawn his name from consideration. Did you see that coming?
I was not surprised. It appeared after Steve was able to get the majority of the conference vote that there was a block of members who had publicly stated that they would not support Scalise's nominee on the floor. And with the tight majority that we have currently, Republicans hold a 4-seat majority. So 5 members can stop legislation, can stop individuals from being elected to leadership positions. And there was a group of about 4 or 5 times that number, Gerard, somewhere between 20 and 25 members who, for various reasons, stated that they would not support Scalise's bid on the House floor. I think when Scalise learned that those people were pretty rock solid in their position, I think Steve made the right call at that point, knowing that he was going to be unable to move the votes necessary to be successful. He has withdrawn his name, and now we have once again started the process over as a Republican conference to select the speaker designee from the Republican members.
Well, Congressman Scalise, as you well know, is a very skilled vote counter. He can read those tea leaves pretty good, and I think he just said, the path doesn't exist for me to win this thing, so he stepped aside. But here we are again. How long have we been without a speaker now? It's a couple of weeks, huh?
Going on day 10, so the longer this drags on, I think the more pressure we feel as a conference to try to get this decision right, to try to move this forward in a timely manner, particularly as we saw the events that happened last weekend internationally with Hamas and Israel. We're going to be under a great deal of pressure to reopen the House floor, to pass resolutions supporting Israel, to begin once again, start back with the appropriations process. So we've got a lot of work to do as a Congress. None of that can occur until we elect a speaker. And so earlier this morning, we had a conference meeting, looked at the potential to change the rules to elect a speaker within the conference, not from the House as a whole, but within the conference. Those potential amendments were either withdrawn or tabled, and so we will return back in about 45 minutes as a conference, and we will have a candidate forum. The only announced candidate at this time is Jim Jordan. I would be surprised if any other names surface between now and that 12 o'clock Central Standard Time candidate forum. And so I do believe that between now and the end of the day, that Jim Jordan will be the speaker designee candidate for the Republican Party.
Okay. Well, I don't know if it makes a difference and if there are others who feel the same, but I caught Representative Carlos Jimenez this morning. He represents 28th District, I believe, in Florida. He was being interviewed on the Business Channel, and he said he was all for Kevin McCarthy. He was still planning to throw his support behind him. Do you think there are others in that camp, and might this sort of muck up the works here?
There are others in that camp. You have others that believe what happened to Kevin McCarthy was, even though it was done pursuant to the rules, was improper, that it was wrong. And so there does exist a group of members who would like to see McCarthy returned as the Speaker of the House. You know, the thing that Jordan faces is the same thing that Scalise faced, and that Jordan will get the votes from the conference as a whole because all it requires is a simple majority. And Jim will overwhelmingly receive the majority of the votes from the conference. But with that narrow majority, all it takes is 5 Republican members who would be voting in lockstep with the Democrats to deny Jim Jordan or Steve Scalise or Kevin McCarthy or whoever that candidate may be the ability to ascend to the speakership.
Yeah.
I know that there are several members who have publicly stated that they will not support Jordan. Several others who said that they are on the fence as to whether they will support Jordan, and probably others who have not announced one way or the other. And so even if Jim Jordan comes out of today as our speaker designee, he's going to have to work on those handful of members who actually could go to the floor and prevent him from being elected as Speaker of the House. I intend to vote for Jim Jordan today. I intend to vote for Jim Jordan on the floor, but I will tell you that there are a handful of members, probably at this point 10 to 12, who have either publicly said they will not vote for Jordan or they are questioning whether or not they will vote for him on the floor.
Well, Representative Jimenez is certainly one of those, and if just as you went through the math there, that means Jim Jordan can't get elected to the Speaker if that's the case.
Well, you know, Jim's going to have to do what Steve was trying to do over that 24, 36 hours before he withdrew from the speaker's race. He's going to have to be meeting with these people individually, meeting with these people as a group to try to understand what issues that they may have and try to give them assurances that if he is elected speaker, that he will lead the entire conference as a whole. And so if not Jim Jordan, I think the question is who, because they're really, after you go through Scalise and Jim Jordan, there is no clear favorite as to who would be next in line to be able to lead the Republican conference. You've heard people like Tom Emmer, the whip's names mentioned. You've heard a couple of other names that have surfaced, but really none of them have the public persona, if you will, of Jordan and Scalise. And so you're going to be electing someone who most of the American public has not heard of. And so that's why I believe that this is Jim Jordan's race to lose at this point. I think he is well positioned, but it only takes a handful of Republican members to be able to sabotage his attempt to be the Speaker of the House.
You know, Congressman, I certainly don't, with this next comment, don't want to sound like I'm discounting or downplaying the importance and the critical nature of the leader, in this case the Speaker of the House, of the body. But I've talked to a lot of people the last couple of days that kind of come down of the opinion that it really shouldn't matter all that much. And that, you know, we should be united on our agenda as a party in that body. And we just need somebody to serve in that position and make sure that it gets properly stewarded. But it seems like there's still a lot of conflict, a lot of dissension and a lack of consensus on what that agenda ought to be and how it ought to be carried out.
Well, and we've gotten some of those same calls at our office, Gerard. You know, people have called and they said, hey, just elect somebody.
Yeah.
You know, we don't care who it is. You know, this has gone on now for a week and a half with really no end in sight. We want Congress to get back to work. We want Congress to get back to being able to bring legislation to the floor and conduct business somewhat as usual, at least to be able to conduct business, even if not as usual, conduct business on the House floor. And so there's a great frustration by conference members. I will tell you that, you know, at this point, tempers are beginning to rise. People are beginning to, you know, speak out at times. But there's also, I think, a concern by the American public, particularly those Americans who sent us here to do the people's business, that the longer this drags on, the more incompetent the Republican Party appears to look, particularly in the national media.
No doubt. We're already seeing Democrat detractors already starting to promote that quite a bit. I know you're in the middle of business, but can you hang around with us for another segment, dig into this Palestinian-Israel situation?
Would love to. Yes, sir.
All right. We got Congressman Michael Guest on the line with us. We're in the Element Well studio, coming right back.
everything's alright, don't you know?
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays. We're in the Element Well studio. We've got Congressman Michael Guest with us. So, Congressman, you feel like we will get a speaker, just to wrap this subject up, before the end of the weekend?
I'm optimistic that we will have a vote either Saturday or Sunday to elect a new speaker. Well, again, the candidate forum will kick that off in just over half an hour. I'm told that there may be a second candidate, Austin Scott, from the state of Georgia, who may also be a candidate for speaker, but I think the overwhelming majority of the Republican Party will support Jim Jordan. I think that he will win the nomination within the party, and it will be incumbent upon Jim to hold those one-on-one conversations with the handful of members that may have reservations about him serving as speaker. But I'm hopeful that we can get that done and that we can have a vote. I will tell you right now, Gerard, that we have an attendance problem. That there are about 13 Republicans who are not here today. Some of those individuals went back to their district for whatever reason, and so until those members return, we will not be able to go to the floor and have the speaker election. We've got to make sure that all of our members are present, and not only all of our members are present, but that all of our members intend to support Jim Jordan as speaker. So we're working through those logistics, the conferences, as we speak.
Okay. Well, we'll be watching out for it, and hopefully we can get this thing wrapped up and get a speaker in place and start taking care of the people's business. I know that's what you want to do. I think that's what most people in the body in the conference want to do as well. Unfortunately, like we said before we went to break, it feels like the Democrats are enjoying this. I mean, they're just eating the popcorn and liking what they see, liking the chaos and calling us out on it.
Yeah, and look, we would have done the same thing when Nancy Pelosi was speaker. And
sure.
So, nobody within the Republican Party should have thought that the Democrats would throw us a lifeline. They're going to make us work this out internally. They're not going to offer us one vote on the House floor. When we go to the floor, they will all vote in lockstep for Akeem Jeffries to be the speaker. So that's why it's important that all Republicans vote to support our Republican nominee.
Okay.
And again, that individual at the end of the day will be Jim Jordan, and he'll have to work on anyone that may have any reservations, and we'll have to work as a party to make sure that those reservations or those concerns are addressed so that we can get this to the floor quickly.
Okay. All right. Well, again, we'll be on the lookout for it, and hopefully we can get this thing put to bed. So let's turn our attention to the situation in Israel. The response, I think, from the U.S. in some cases has been a little tardy. I'm seeing this morning that the State Department is getting a little more involved and helping to extract Americans from the area, but seems like they've been a little slow on this.
You're exactly right. The administration, since the Republican Congress has not been able to act and intervene, we've been relying completely on the administration. There's been some things that I think that they've done that I agree with, moving the carrier group into the area to make sure that third parties, that maybe nation states in the area that may seek to take advantage of the unrest in Israel know that we are there and we will be supporting them. But like you said, we've not been as aggressive as I would have hoped in being able to bring Americans back from Israel that have been stranded in Israel because commercial flights have been canceled. And I think that we need to work harder using our assets to try to rescue Americans who are held hostage in Gaza. And so those are areas where I think that this administration has been slow to act. And I also think that they've been slow at times to release information to the public and to members of Congress. I mean, it took until Wednesday before members of Congress were able to get a briefing on what was occurring in Israel.
Yeah.
And that's unacceptable. We should have been able to be briefed within 24 hours of the events that were going on so that we could then know how we could engage moving forward. I will tell you, at least within the Republican Party, there is overwhelming support for Israel. I can't say that that's necessarily true. In the Democratic Party, we've seen Rashida Tlaib and Omar and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and others who seem to either be supporting Palestine or at least sending mixed messages. But the Republican Party, we will stand behind Israel, and we are prepared to look at some sort of military assistance package once that package is formalized and sent over by the administration.
Okay. Well, I guess we shouldn't be too terribly surprised at the individuals that you listed there. It seems like they've been sort of an anti-Israel, pro-Palestine posture for some time. I think it's a shame, honestly. And what happened, last weekend was really indefensible. Not only the number of Israelis that were killed in hospital lives, but the brutality that we saw. Babies being beheaded, people being burned alive, women being raped, people being kidnapped and taken into Gaza. Those actions are indefensible. Even if you, for some reason, are not a friend of Israel, which we know Omar and Rashida Tlaib and AOC, that they're never going to be friends of Israel. What happened on that day should have united not only all Americans, but the entire world around the cause of Israel, because what we saw there is something that I don't recall seeing in my lifetime, at least to that scale. And it was nothing more than terrorists conducting those raids on the nation of Israel. And so it is important, regardless of how you may stand on the one-state solution, two-state solution, how you may feel personally about Israel, that we take a stand that we're not going to allow this type of brutality to occur anywhere. Yeah, and this morning, I don't know if you've been briefed on it, but Secretary of State Blinken and Lloyd Austin, Defense Secretary, they made some fairly powerful statements where they said that Israel can be assured that, quote, we have your back. He stopped short of saying that the U.S. would provide any sort of ground troop support. In fact, he said we would not. And I don't think Israel has ever asked for that or is asking for that. But I think in terms of intelligence or any other assets or resources they need, apparently these two members of the cabinet have said they're good to go with that. And I'm sure that's coming with the approval of the president. Do you have any thoughts about that, or are you hearing anything from Republicans in the House on that?
Well, I think you're right in the fact that as far as us sending Americans to Israel into combat, the Israeli Defense Fund, they are one of the best trained military organizations in the world.
Yeah.
They are well trained, well equipped, and so they are very capable to carry out the mission that they need to in Gaza. But you're right, we need to make sure that we are supplying them with any intelligence that we have. And that we're also making sure that militarily, as they begin to extend their stockpile, particularly if there is a ground invasion into Gaza, that we are resupplying them. And so I think that is the goal. I was surprised to learn, Gerard, I was talking to Dan Crenshaw the other day when I was here, just asking him his opinion because of his prior military service. Yeah. And he was telling me that, Gaza is an area where the U.S. really has limited intelligence assets, that we don't consider Gaza a direct threat to America.
Okay.
And that actually America relies very heavily on Egypt and Israel to provide and share intelligence with us. And so I'm sure there are things that we have that we can provide to them. But really, there is a much more Israeli-Egyptian intelligence gathering network in Gaza than an American intelligence gathering network.
Yeah, I've heard the same thing. So apparently I just got a notification. It looks like Israel is maybe on the move and starting to do some sort of limited raids, I guess, is the way they're describing it. But and I don't think that should come as any surprise. Of course, they try to get the civilians to get out, and then we hear that the Hamas regime told the civilians to stay put, and they're probably threatening them if they leave. It's a mess, and we pray for the situation to come to a quick resolution. But Congressman, always good talking to you. Appreciate you coming on today, and we'll be checking with you to see how this vote goes over the weekend.
Good deal. Thanks, Gerard. Have a great weekend.
You too, sir. We're coming right back, folks, in the Element Wealth studio.